The Interstate Bridge Replacement Program has run into a bit of a setback. The environmental review is taking longer than expected. Bridge project leaders refuse to say whether that will delay construction on the new bridges, but it's pretty hard to imagine how it will not. Regardless, we got to wondering whether or not that will affect when tolling will start on the old bridges. And if you have not seen our past coverage, yes, the old bridges will be tolled as construction is getting started on the new ones. The draft supplemental environmental impact statement is the technical term for the team's big analysis of their proposed design for the new bridge. It's part of the federal environmental review process. Once that draft comes out, the public has 2 months to give input. For months, the team has said that the document would be released in spring of 2024. Okay, so basically now. But in the last few weeks, the bridge folks have quietly acknowledged the timeline's kind of changed. There's still no specific date. They just said it's going to be sometime later this year. The reason why? Well, that's also a bit of a mystery. They only said the Federal Highway Administration and Federal Transit Administration needed more time to review it. But they added that it's not unusual for a project of this size to run into these kinds of delays. Here's what we know about the timeline. The previous schedule called for the environmental review process to wrap up around the end of the year, with the feds giving the final green light in 2025 and then construction starting late that year or early 2026. But now that this draft and public comment is delayed, the environmental review process is very likely pushed back as well. So this is still realistic. Is it still realistic to be talking about construction beginning less than 2 years from now? Well, the bridge team says yes, although their statement sounds a little, let's call it, aspirational. Here's what they said to us. We are assessing how the draft SEIS could affect our construction schedule. At this time, we continue to strive for early construction activities to begin in late 2025 or early 26. We will have more clarity on construction schedules as we work through the draft SEIS process with our federal partners. So, yeah. Not a ton of confidence there. But one thing that we do know, the setback is probably not going to delay the point where we all have to start paying tolls to cross the Columbia River. We've told you before that a big piece of the new bridge's funding will come from the tolls, and the team plans to use pre-completion tolling, which means they're going to start charging for tolls on the current bridges rather than waiting until the new one is up and running. The toll rates will be set by a joint committee from members from Washington and Oregon's transportation commissions. That committee began meeting earlier this year. They're supposed to officially set the tolling rates in the second half of 2025, with tolling starting up about 8 months later, so at some point in 2026. The process is completely separate from the federal environmental review process, which means, sorry, delaying one does not delay the other. When we asked the bridge team about the tolling, they told us at this point we still anticipate that the earliest pre-completion tolling could begin is in 2026. So, listen, if you work in Portland and live in Vancouver or vice versa, your free crossings over the Columbia along I-5 are numbered. Though, for what it's worth, when I sat down with ODOT's director earlier this year, he told me that at the moment they do not have plans to toll the I-205 bridge to the east. So, maybe plan accordingly.